Hello, welcome back to Football Today. It is June 21st. My name is Justin Penik. Alongside, welcome back, Bobby Skinner. Bobby, it's great to have you back because as Chris Rose and I, we were having some good football conversations. I was thinking to myself, oh man, I would really like to hear what Bobby Skinner has to say about this. And Chris Rose and I, we've been talking a lot about quarterbacks and quarterback situations. And lo and behold, today's episode, we are going to be ranking quarterbacks via tiers. And everybody loves lists and everybody loves tiers. Bobby, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm glad this was an episode I wanted to do. I wanted to make it specifically like for this year, not, projecting a ton, like projecting these players for this year. And like power rankings, Justin, I want to ask you this question. This is, again, I think this should be an integral
Oh,
part of power rankings episodes. Which fan base will be the most mad about their quarterback's ranking?
I think it's easily the Detroit Lions.
Hmm. Where did you have Jared Goff? I had him 12th.
I have him 17th.
17th. Okay, I think they should be a little mad at you. I think for me, I'm not going to say Tua just because I've been strong on where Tua I have Tua and I have Tua at 19th. I was thinking maybe Anthony Richardson, but to me, I have Anthony Richardson at 25th. But it's such it's the ultimate can skyrocket, right? It's just I'm
Yeah.
worried that if he could stay healthy and can he, play the way that they used him last year, if and stay healthy, or will they try and limit that? And I think that limits him. And the other one, I don't. Maybe Brock Purdy at 17, which I do hate having him there. Although the fact that I was like a Brock Purdy defender, but it's just this is something when you put together this list, Justin, that everyone's like, oh, quarterback play is awful now. I don't think so. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of good
Mhm.
quarterbacks, and there's quarterbacks that are worth being paid that I have, like in the bottom half of the NFL that aren't in the top 16 that I would give, good contracts to. So I think quarterback play is pretty damn good in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I have to agree with you because we're gonna go through these lists. We have the same list of 38 quarterbacks. So this it's not like Bobby included a certain backup that I didn't. We have the same list of 38 quarterbacks. Except
But
they're going to be
the
obviously be a
backups I
different
included
ranking.
were guys that I thought might like Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy. I put both those
Right,
guys,
right.
Aiden O'Connell,
If
Gardner
there are
Minshew.
certain if there are certain quarterbacks that as of right now are in the running to possibly start, Jacoby Brissett with the Patriots, we also included in there too. So we have the same list of 38 quarterbacks, but then even outside of just that list and maybe debating some of that, I have some questions here. So one of the things that I asked is anything that surprised you when making your list. The thing that surprised me, and I'm so glad that you brought it up, is that like even going back to, we labeled it in elite quarterbacks, good quarterbacks, decent quarterbacks, middling quarterbacks, and backup quarterbacks. Even some of the quarterbacks that we have in middling, I don't hate, and especially the decent ones. I have 19 quarterbacks that I consider decent in the NFL, elite, good, and then decent. 19 quarterbacks in those three categories. I'm with you, man. That was the thing that did surprise me, that I like quarterback play and I like quarterbacks way more than I thought I initially did before making this list.
Yeah, so here's I like Brock Purdy a lot. I think he processes the field so well. But I have him 17th, which I think is in a sense like disrespectful for the level of the play that he puts up. But I went at this exercise, Justin, as not who's going to be the MVP this year, who's going to have the best stats this year. And it's funny because Trevor Lawrence just got his contract. The way I viewed this is if you were the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jags, how good would you be? Right? Because I think they're like a perfect barometer offensively, where it's like they're not great at any position. They have, offensive line can be, bad at times. It can be solid enough at times. Travis Etienne's a good weapon on the backfield, but the running game hasn't been good. And then you just have like the most, a slightly above average wide receiver group there. So I kind of viewed it as like if you were the Jacksonville Jags quarterback, where, who would I take in order?
Yeah. And I also look at it from I really did this year when thinking about the draft and evaluating QBs through the draft. Is I always think about it through explosive play potential. Do you produce explosive plays? How well do you avoid sacks or limit sacks? And then also extending plays and being whether you're mobile inside the pocket or whether you can run outside the pocket and scramble and then even make plays on the run with throwing the ball too outside of the pocket. Those are like the three main ways that I kind of quote unquote evaluate QB play, and then also how I kind of came up with this list as well. So let's start off by just kind of going through. We have tiers. We have elite, good, decent, middling, and backup. Why don't you give us who you have as the quote unquote backup quarterbacks out of these 38 that we have?
So my 28th through 38th are backups, and it goes in order. Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor, Deshaun Watson is my number 30, which is tough for me, Justin, because I there's still a huge part of me that's like, what the fuck happened? Like, obviously, besides all like the off, maybe he's just cursed by the off-field stuff. Because he was so good in Houston. But when you look at him these last 2 years in Cleveland, he's been awful. And it's not,
awful.
the system, the talent. No, he has been awful. So I put him 30th. I put Sam Darnold 31st, Bryce Young 32nd. Obviously, Bryce Young can make a jump. Will Levis 33rd, JJ McCarthy 34th, Bo Nix 35th, Gardner Minshew 36th, Michael Penix 37th, and then Aiden O'Connell 38th.
Okay. All right. The one thing I don't like about doing this list and doing this exercise is you have to include rookie quarterbacks, but I hate including rookie quarterbacks on this just because I don't know how to evaluate them. So
I did it as, what are my expectations for you, and what would be a season that is a solid season. It's not a CJ Stroud type of season for you, even if I think you're a better, can be a better QB than CJ Stroud. What would be a season where the fan base of that team would be really excited? Level-headed analysts would say that was a good rookie season, but needs to grow. And then haters would be like, this guy sucks. That's kind of my projection for all the rookie quarterbacks.
All right. So you had 28 through 38 as backups. I have 30 through 38. And I'll go in the same order as you did, going from starting at 30, then going down to 38. I have Jacoby Brissett 30, the best quote unquote backup in the league. Sam Darnold at 31, Deshaun Watson at 32, Bryce Young at 33, Will Levis at 34, Gardner Minshew 35, Bo Nix 36, Michael Penix 37, then Aiden O'Connell at 38. So nothing really, besides the whole Deshaun Watson thing, I actually think some people have been doing a nice job of compiling some good Bryce Young throws from year one. Obviously, those are just highlights. And then I looked at the numbers and it's like, man, it's really bad, but it's also a really bad situation. I kind of feel bad for Bryce Young, but also the Panthers are kind of dumb that they did kind of take him number one. Will Levis has an opportunity.
Number one.
Has an opportunity to move up. But before we talk about maybe quarterbacks that have an opportunity to take up, I do want to get our middling tier out of the way. So, Bobby, why don't you give me your middling tier?
Yeah, mine was 22 through 27. Derek Carr, 22. Jacoby Brissett, 23. Our guy, Daniel Jones, 24. Anthony Richardson, 25, which, again, can shoot up this board. Jaden Daniels, 26, and then Russell Wilson, 27.
Okay, so I actually have 20 through 29 in middling. I have Derek Carr, 20. Daniel Jones at 21, Baker Mayfield at 22.
Okay.
I don't feel great about putting Daniel Jones ahead of Baker, but I think Baker's actually going to maybe take a step back this year. Second year in Tampa, and then also his OC that was really good for him left. Anthony Richardson, 23, Drake May, 24, Russell Wilson, 25. I have Tyrod Taylor, 26, and that's actually one that I kind of regret. Jaden Daniels, 27, JJ McCarthy, 28, and then Justin Fields at 29. Did you have Justin Fields as...
He was my top backup at 28. So you have him as a different
backup
label of him, but I have him higher ranked.
I do. And I'm going to tell you why. I have Russell Wilson ahead of Justin Fields, but there's a 4 quarterback difference in there. 25 Russell Wilson, 29 Justin Fields, respectively. But, we've been talking on Football Today about, like, don't we all kind of agree that the Steelers possibly have a higher upside with Justin Fields starting, and that it's kind of maybe even the correct move to eventually start Justin Fields, or even from day one, start Justin Fields to see what you have versus Russell Wilson. We already think that we know what we have. So if we all have that opinion, then I am definitely more inclined to put Justin Fields in the middling category than in the backup category.
See,
right?
they're the difference right there. I have Wilson at 27, who's the end of middling, and then backup at the beginning is Justin Fields at 28. I just Chicago wasn't the best situation for him, but it should have
Right.
been better, right? With the ability that he has with his legs, you had DJ Moore, who's a bona fide, and he fed DJ Moore. DJ Moore had a lot of yards this year, from Justin Fields. Um, you have I think a pretty good player in Cole Kmet there too, who they paid an offensive line that was, above average, for NFL standards. And I just I don't think going to Pittsburgh is going to help. I think there's a good chance that Justin Fields looks a good bit worse than what he did in Chicago, with now dealing with the QB competition of Russell Wilson or coming in and relief. Um, and you don't love the talent that Pittsburgh has around him. I think he has a like. Do you think Justin Fields is going to be better or worse than last year in Chicago?
In a way, the talent is worse. Maybe the line's better.
We'll see. I mean, it's a very young offensive line.
Where was he last year? I like my. So he was 21st in CPOE EPA composite, which actually isn't. I think that might be his career best.
Which, and again, and think about how much that bet, like those numbers, EPA is benefited by rushing, and how good of a rusher he is,
Right.
and it's still 21st. Like Justin Fields should be like, oh, he's sneaky, 14th in EPA per play, because he has all the rushing ability, and then it's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
like he just does not see the field well, and I just don't think Pittsburgh's going to be the place to really take advantage of it.
No, and especially if they don't have receivers that can consistently get open via separation. Or, I mean, I think Russell Wilson is actually maybe even Justin Fields too. I haven't, maybe I guess I haven't fully watched Justin Fields enough. But if you need to have, I think there's going to need to be quarterbacks in Pittsburgh that are willing to throw a contested ball to George. That's what just George Pickens does best, and get the ball out of their hands quick in some way. Because you have two quarterbacks that were in the top 10 in percentage of dropbacks with some responsibility of pressure. So Russell Wilson was number one last year. 24.3% of the pressures that he faced, he was responsible for. And then Justin Fields was ninth. So you may be having quarterbacks taking a lot of pressures and taking a lot of sacks in Pittsburgh this year. And that is one of the ways that I do evaluate quarterback play.
Yeah, and I just think with Justin Fields, so much revolves around his legs. And I just don't see Pittsburgh being the spot with it, with a stubborn offensive coordinator and Arthur Smith, who I do think is obviously an upgrade over what they had last year. I don't have faith in either one of these quarterbacks in
Yeah.
that Pittsburgh situation. I want to touch on the backups though. We had both. I had Will Levis at 33rd. You had him similar. I'm excited for Will Levis this year. Like, I think Tennessee has quietly put together enough of a supporting cast around him to see what he is, right? You have DeAndre Hopkins, who was still really good last year, and then you add Calvin Ridley. We'll see how the run game is, but they added J.C. Latham, and Tony Pollard is a back. I'm excited to see Will Levis this year with Callahan and Son as his coaches.
All right. So one of the questions that I have is just like a miscellaneous question is which quarterback in like each tier do you feel most comfortable in saying like that can move up a tier from backup to middling to decent, good to elite? But I'll rephrase it as this. Who do you feel more confident in this time next year will be in a different tier? Anthony Richardson moving up to the decent tier, because right now he's middling. I have him 23rd, and then you have Anthony Richardson 25th. Or Will Levis moving up from backup to middling? Which do you feel more confident?
Anthony Richardson. Because I think if Anthony Richardson played 9 games last year and then got injured, I think we'd probably be a little higher on him. But I can't. When we did our AFC South episode, I actually went and watched every Anthony Richardson throw on all 22.
Yeah.
And like what I saw for the most part, right? Like, he was a little too eager to get to the check down at time. Like, it very much felt like the offensive passing wise was like, hey, here's your look. If it's not there, get to the check down.
Yeah, and I feel like they kind of held it back for him a little bit. I watched I rewatched because the Giants signed a cornerback from the Jaguars. So I rewatched the week 1 game, Colts versus Jaguars, and I did feel like they were kind of, it was a rookie learning an offense, basically.
Yeah, and then they leaned into his rushing ability. I'm just worried that he's going to be injury prone. Like, it flared up at Florida too. And then getting injured, twice last year, or was it 3 times where he got injured?
It was, often. It wasn't just the one season ending
And
one.
you've got to lean into his legs. So I really like Anthony Richardson. Like I loved him as I liked him as a prospect. If you ask me out of the, like I probably would have taken Anthony Richardson over Bryce Young. Um, probably CJ Stroud too, which is obviously an L at clearly.
Yeah.
But it's just I got to see him stay healthy for 4 games in a row.
Yeah.
Right. But you watch him and there's if he could stay healthy and with a year of maturing, yeah, he could jump up I think he can jump up into the good tier. I don't think he's not going to jump up into the elite tier, but I think he can jump into that 9 to 13 range.
Not 9 to 30. Yeah. I
mean,
guess
he's
that's
so
where,
talented. He's got a great. Think about what Shane Steichen did for Jalen Hurts, and just like the answers that he installs in an offense. That like even like I said, like the offense was very, very, easy in a sense for in India, where it's just like, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this, then get to your check down, to avoid some of those mistakes, and then RPOs, and then the run game. That I think Shane Steichen's going to do such a great job limiting him from making the mistakes that let's say he would put in Pittsburgh. I think they'll limit some of the mistakes that they could have.
Right. And the Colts are my team right now that
With good talent too.
The Colts are my team right now that I'm circling. The funny thing is I'm sure there are some NFL people, like if you have an outlook on the Colts, man, maybe the Colts can have a Houston Texans type of year like the Houston Texans had last year.
Yeah.
Oh, but wait, the funny thing is that the Colts and the Texans were playing the last week of the season for the right to even enter the playoffs. So like that's how close it was. That's how close it was. Like you could say the Colts can have a Texans year, but even without Anthony Richardson, and I think Gardner Minshew was not a very good quarterback for them last year.
36 for me.
Not a very good quarterback for them last year. And if you watch that game on national television, Gardner Minshew missed a ton of throws that the Colts could have easily won that game last year. And then, maybe we're not even talking about the Texans in the same light if the Colts actually wind up winning that football game. So the Colts are definitely a team that I'm not just circling in pencil. I'm circling them in pen as like this could be a young team to watch out for. But
the injuries are like literally playing into my ranking of Anthony Richardson because of the way that they need him to run for him to be the best version of himself, at least early on. Right.
Yeah, their ceiling is very much
a few zone reads and some scrambles. Like some legit quarterback running game, the same way Shane Steichen did with Jalen Hurts. That the injury stuff just worries me so much. And then what happens when you put 6 games of film of that offense that they're making it very easy for him on film, and then it gets adjusted to how does he go? So Anthony Richardson he's the ultimate like when we look up next year who could jump up the highest.
Yeah, their ceiling is very much impacted on his health and obviously his productivity too, which we haven't even talked about his productivity and his ability to play quarterback, which is a huge part of this because he was even raw last year, didn't get a lot of experience. We're talking solely about his health here. So I'm even excited just to see if he does stay healthy, how I would like to even move on to talking about him as a quarterback and what he has to do differently instead of just focusing on his health. Let's move to the decent tier. I think this is the tier that we both have the least amount of players in. Yes, that is true.
Yeah, I have 3 and one's a rookie.
Yeah, I have 4.
19, I have Tua. 20, I have Drake May. And the 21, I have Baker Mayfield.
I have 16, I have Caleb Williams. 17, I have Jared Goff. 18, I have Tua. And then 19, I have Kyler Murray.
So, wait, go again, starting with Caleb again. Say it again.
Yeah, Caleb, I have 16. Jared Goff, I have 17. Tua, I have 18. And then Kyler Murray, I have 19. So what do you got from there?
Talk to me about Jared Goff. Because two of the conversation, even if you disagree, we know what the conversation was Tua. Talk to me about Jared Goff because I have him 12, and I have him above guys like Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray and Geno Smith and Brock Purdy.
I think he is tremendously benefiting from being in a very good situation. Now that's also not a fair sentence. Because then I even went and I looked at some of his numbers and some of his stuff from when Detroit was bad, like bad early on in the Dan Campbell years. And he still wasn't bad. And the offense has always been kind of kind of decent, but I look at it from this. If you look at EPA per play, even stemming back to like 2021, 2022, he's not great. He was 10th last year, and I think that was some of his best. That was one of his best performing years in a couple of years, maybe even since he's been with Sean McVay back in LA. I don't view Jared Goff as a quarterback that could win a Super Bowl right now. And I know they came so close to even getting to the Super Bowl last year, a drop away. But when you put him in a list with the rest of these guys, like I think Caleb Williams is a better quarterback than him right now. I think a lot of these guys that I have in the good tier, like I think those guys are just better quarterbacks right now. And Detroit is just a really good situation. And you don't want to, I hate penalizing Jared Goff for it, but that's
what this conversation is. I disagree with you a little bit, but that is like, we all like this part of quarterback rankings is penalizing them for like, what do you think they would do in a worse situation? Here's the thing is, he got the Rams to the Super Bowl, and he's like a much better player than what the Rams version of himself. Like if you're someone who like I think that's what what Tua should be trying to like reasonable like get to range is what Jared Goff is right now. And like I think he was awesome last year. He's like done a pretty good job taking care of the ball. I understand that offensive line allows them to do a lot of things on offense, but they also haven't he's not throwing this ball up to Calvin Johnson, Detroit. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown's awesome on third down, but it's like he's also a slot wide receiver, which is going to limit some of it. I think they do a great job with him, but playoff performance does matter to me, and I like Jared Goff, and I think Jared Goff's been pretty damn good in the playoffs outside of the Super Bowl, and definitely with Detroit. Like he did. Was there any time in the playoffs last year where you're like, man, if they had, if they had an upgrade, we'd really be dealing here. Like, I think it's a different conversation around Goff from when the Rams traded him for Matthew Stafford. I think he's a much better player than what he was.
No, he is, and again, I feel bad putting him this low because even if you look at, he has much better fourth quarter splits and second half splits than a guy like Trevor Lawrence, much better than Tua. Even if you look at the trailing with less than 2 minutes to go, he has a QB rating above 115, and then the trailing with less than 4 minutes to go, he has a QB rating of 101.6. And the touchdown interception ratio is good. The completion percentage is 68 and 69%. So when he's trailing and the game's on the line, and that's actually, if there's one thing that Chris Rose has impacted me, when doing football today so far, it's like, what, Chris Rose, that is a good point of, quarterback play when the game's on the line, you're down by 3 or you're down by 6, a franchise quarterback should be able to kind of take you down the field. So I've been looking at some
that impacted me a lot in the good category.
Yeah, the second half and fourth quarter splits
where I had guys as good, but where I ranked them against each other, a lot of that had to do with like fourth quarter playoffs. Like, how do I feel about you then?
So I feel bad about putting Jared Goff this low, and I may even regret it, but it's just how I feel. You know what? Maybe I should bump up. Like if I were to bump him up over Caleb Williams, because I don't want to call Caleb Williams good in the year 2023. I think he could be decent this year, and I think he very much has the potential to be good. I just can't do. And again, I hate putting rookies on here.
To me, I know we put rookie QBs on this, but to me, they're just not a part of the conversation. Like, because it's so much projection.
I agree.
Like,
so let's just
we put them on there, but I'm not. Yeah, I put Caleb in good because I have such high expectations and such a good situation for him. But again, you can. If you're mad about your rankings, look at the rookies and like, the guy hasn't played a snap yet. What the hell are we talking about? We're talking about projection.
Yeah, so maybe if I could do this over again, I would put Jared Goff ahead of Caleb Williams at 16, and then instead of having 5 through 15 be good, I would put Jared Goff in the good category, but then just have him 16th. I think that would have been the correct move to actually make. And maybe I can even make that amendment right now. Or is it official? Up to you. I think it's official.
It's official. It's official because we can't influence each other. You can change it for the next one.
Do you want to get
Kyler Murray? You don't think he's good?
Oh, no, I think he's decent.
I think that's fair.
I don't think that's an issue. I think he's decent.
I'm interested to see him this year. Again, like I view them as like I don't think the Cardinals are going to be a good team this year, but I think they're going to be a good fantasy football team this year with with Kyler and then Marvin Harrison Jr. and even Trey Benson. We really like the running back. I think they're going to be a good Trey McBride, the tight end who really came on last year once they got rid of Zach Ertz. Um, but I'm not the biggest Kyler Murray fan. I have him at what do I have him at?
15th.
I have him at 15th.
And he's very much in your good category. Towards the tail end.
We'll go through the rankings in a second. It's just he does so much creation and good.
Yeah.
That I like. Now, again, there is some bad taste in your mouth from that playoff performance versus the Rams, but it was his first playoff game. I don't want to hold that totally against him. It was also with Cliff Kingsbury as his play caller. At one point, Kyler was viewed so highly where people are talking about like he can be elite that I have a hard time dropping him out of good off of a year where he got his ACL. And he was good when he came, like he played well when he came back on a Cardinals team that we thought would have the number one overall pick.
Yeah. Yeah, he was pretty good at, he was 11th in percentage dropbacks with some responsibility of pressure, which is not as bad as I thought. And inherently, you're going to have an advantage as a running quarterback there. I think he was 20th in EPA and CPOE composite last year, which for the surrounding cast, I consider that good. It's not just not bad. I think it's good, but I think he's decent. That's where I think Kyler Murray is right now. So I don't think it's bad.
Say again?
Which I don't think is bad. Like I have him as decent right now.
Let's say Kyler Murray. Would you give Kyler Murray the same contract again if you're the Arizona Cardinals?
No. No.
I would. I guess I have him in good, so obviously. That's another thing I wanted to ask you. How many guys would you be willing to like pay 50 plus per year? Whether it's, a 5-year deal or Aaron Rodgers where it's, a 2-year deal on a short window team.
I think we should re-ask that question after we do good, but from the decent, middling, and backup tier.
And not including rookies. So like I can't include Caleb or Drake May.
Dude, can I say no one right now?
Oh, from the decent tier? Yeah, no, you shouldn't be doing that with the decent tier.
No, and even from middling, I wouldn't. You said
no, you obviously don't want from the middling tier.
All right, so then let's
50 million plus per year.
So from the quarterbacks that we've talked about so far, or from the good tier?
Just in the NFL in general. Because
all right, let's get to the good tier. Let's get to the good tier because I think that's a good question to ask then. I thought you were asking from the quarterbacks that we've talked about so far. I'm like, no, I don't know.
No.
All right, so give me your good tier.
Okay, so my good starts with 5. And this is just for this year. This isn't for, the next 4 years. Matthew Stafford, number 5, which is a lot of respect for me, Justin, because I've been a little bit of a Stafford detractor at times, but I think Sean McVay is a great coupling. And it's really unlocked him, and I think he's he's really fucking good. Justin Herbert 6, CJ Stroud 7, Aaron Rodgers 8, Jalen Hurts 9, and then Trevor Lawrence rounds out my top 10 quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go Kirk Cousins 11, Jared Goff 12, Dak Prescott 13, Jordan Love 14, which again I think is I gotta see this. That one can change 4 games into the year, but I gotta see more. I know he played well in the playoffs. And then Kyler 15, Caleb Williams 16, and then Brock Purdy 17 and Geno Smith 18. I now that I'm looking at it, I think I should have put Geno Smith in the decent tier. But Geno played basically the same last year as he did the year before. Just got injured, and the Seahawks didn't have as much success.
Yeah, and dude, if there's one quarterback that surprises the hell out of you, if you like EPA and CPOE, then you're gonna like what I'm saying. But if you hate shut the fuck up with the numbers analytics shit, then I guess you're gonna hate me. But if there's one guy that surprises you since he's taken over as the starter for Seattle, he's like in the top. Might be like in the top 10, top 5. I don't want to say top 5. I can actually check it, but
he's got a lot of confidence. He runs that Seahawks offense really well. Now, obviously, they got a new offensive coordinator over there. Like he he knows when to run the play. He knows when, hey, I got the alert. I got one-on-one matchup here, DK Metcalf. Forget all the play design. I'm throwing this one-on-one out here to him. Um, like he knows how to like avoid pressure and get the ball out and keep his completion percent high and keep the ball moving. Like Geno's been pretty damn good for Seattle. And for some reason, I think some people view last year as a drop off, and it really wasn't. It was just that he missed games and the Seahawks struggled down the stretch. Like the only drop off was basically just in completion percentage,
Yeah.
which again the year before he was highest in the NFL. So a drop off from that is understandable. But he went 8-7 last year, missed the 2 games. You know, which the year before they went 9-8. Like it's so similar to the year before.
I'm trying to get my QB tiers and it's not loading for me. So there you go. But Geno Smith, I have it cemently in that good tier, even though he is my last quarterback in the good tier. So I will read mine. I have 5 through 15 as good. Justin Herbert, I have at 5. Aaron Rodgers, I have at 6. CJ Stroud, I have at 7. Matt Stafford, I have at 8. Dak Prescott, 9. Jalen Hurts, 10. Jordan Love, 11. Trevor Lawrence, 12. Kirk Cousins, 13. Brock Purdy, 14. And Geno Smith, I have at 15. Okay. So now this is where I feel like the question is appropriate to ask. Who are you most comfortable giving a $50 million a year, 5-year contract to with this tier? Because obviously the elite guys that we have in the top 4, yes, we're comfortable doing that. But who in this good tier do you feel comfortable doing it with?
Not going to include Caleb Williams because he's a rookie.
Right.
Man, now that I'm talking about the 50 mil, maybe you're right with Kyler. Maybe I'm going to stick with Kyle. I would say 5 through 15. So Stafford, Herbert, Stroud, Rodgers. Obviously, Rodgers isn't a 5-year deal, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Lawrence, Cousins, Goff, Prescott, Love, and then Kyler. And even Love, I have, again, like if he plays the same as last year, you have to do it if you're Green Bay. But again, I do want to see a little more out of Love because it was up and down at times last year, and then it finished great, right? So, but I want to see a little bit more.
The quarterback that I feel most comfortable saying is CJ Stroud. But do you think that there's any chance that the NFL catches up?
No. I think he is very much, we talked about this on the Kurt Warner episode. He is a full field read guy, where it's like if you do this, I'll take that. If you take away this, I'll do that. Like he is very much a read what the defense is doing and react. So I'll be interested. Like something I'm very interested to see is how efficient will they be on the big plays. They didn't lead the league in like attempts for 20+ yard throws, but his QB rating on deep passes, Justin,
insane,
was the best it has been since since those throws have been tracked, which was like 2004 or something like that. The best. So it's like we won't view him as a worst deep passer, but you just can't do that 2 years in a row. So, but I think with the addition of Stephon Diggs, I think I think they'll be fine. I know this isn't a situation pod, but I think CJ Stroud he showed that he's gonna react and he's gonna be aggressive when it's there, and then when it's not there, he's gonna take what's there.
Yeah, that's just always my worry in the NFL. Now that you have a full year of Bobby Slowick, he ran a little too much on early downs for my liking. So if you're going to continue to put CJ Stroud in compromising situations and then teams know what's coming on 3rd and long, obviously adding Stephon Diggs that could just naturally win on the outside helps. Having another year of Nico Collins is going to help, who he was like in the top 3 or top 4 in yards per route run. All of that is going to help CJ Stroud as well. Even a good tight end room and Schultz and Brevin Jordan, those guys there. So yeah, CJ Stroud out of all these guys is the guy that I'm most confident saying, just based on the way that he played quarterback. Like I don't think there's been a quarterback since Andrew Luck that you look at what he did from his rookie year. And I'm talking about I'm not talking about efficiency. I'm not talking about stats. I'm just talking simply from a quarterback playing standpoint. There hasn't been a QB since Andrew Luck that you've just been so confident that he's going to be good based on what he did his rookie year.
Yeah.
Um,
The ones that I'm most here's the ones where I'm just like complete like no second thoughts when they get that big deal would be I'll include Stafford and Rodgers, even though they're old guys. But just like the idea of like they get a big contract, you don't blink at it at all. It would be Stafford, Herbert, Stroud, Rodgers, um, and then Trevor Lawrence. Even though I have Jalen Hurts at 9 over Trevor Lawrence at 10, I just have a lot more confidence long term in Lawrence than Hurts.
really?
Um, yeah, really, in what sense?
Yeah. So you have Lawrence. Oh, so you have Hurts 9, Lawrence 10, but you're saying that you have more confidence long term in Trevor Lawrence and Jalen Hurts?
Yeah. So here's my challenge and I like Jalen Hurts. And I think when you look at Philly's collapse last year, people will look to point at Jalen Hurts, and I think that's misguided. I
Yeah, I think
think,
he kept them afloat.
yeah, I do think they kept him afloat. But here's what I want to see Jalen Hurts add to his game. If the coaching staff is not giving you the answers, get that part of the game down and create like part whether it's game planning in game, create in a sense audibling into the answers when they're there. Right now, again, they did an awful job. Ben Johnson did an awful job for them last year, calling some of the shit they did against some of the teams that were like blitz heavy. It's like, why aren't you ready for the blitz? Like this team blitzes a ton. But Kellen Moore, who I think is a big upgrade, but I'm also not a big Kellen Moore fan, can also be he's a little bit of a line it up and run it type of coach too. I want to see Jalen Hurts add that next step of like, hey, shit, they line up this way. This is probably not the right play to run. Get out of that play. Where I think Jalen Hurts a lot of times ran the play and would with his legs create and or throw the ball to AJ Brown. I want to see Jalen Hurts add that. But I have the same thing for Trevor Lawrence as well too.
Yeah, I even want to ask you about that because Brady's gone on a little bit of a media tour recently. I'm so excited to hear him in the booth. By the way,
Can everyone apologize for acting like Greg Olson has done some great tragedy to be taken off the booth for Tom Brady? If it was anyone else, I'd say okay, Tom Brady's going to be the best commentator we've ever seen.
And something that I've heard him talk about recently, and I don't know if this is kind of just Tom Brady being a little bit of an old man and yelling at the clouds type of deal. I don't think it. I don't think it is though.
It's not. It's a generation. It is a generational gap. But you look at Phil Rivers and Peyton Manning and Matt Ryan. All those guys.
We grew up with Eli Manning and Peyton Manning, and every single play. There's mics on the field. Every single play, you're hearing adjustments and calls at the line. And hey, trust me, I'm pretty sure when we were growing up, stadiums were louder and more packed than what they are now, especially if you root for a bad football team. So every single play you would hear. Quarterbacks are talking at the line. So it's funny how I think, you're asking maybe Hurts to get involved in that a little bit more when I simply just don't know the freedom that quarterbacks have to do that kind of stuff at the line anymore. I'm sure they're doing something, calling out protections and stuff like that, but audibling at the line, I don't know how many guys are doing that anymore.
Part of getting to up a tier or up this list is being someone that the coaches have the trust in to do that, right? And it's like sometimes we forget the mental part. Like that's why the whole Tom Brady arguments back in the day drove me nuts because it's like, well, like yeah, oh wow, he's smarter than everyone else, which makes him great at football. Yeah, it's not a system; it's called his fucking brain. Um, so yeah, but that's my challenge for a lot of these guys to go from for Justin Herbert to go from the good to elite. Stuff like that. And then obviously Rodgers is someone who does that, but it's that last year in Green Bay wasn't all that hot. And then, can he stay healthy?
Yeah. I'm higher on Jordan Love than you are as the lights go out in Georgia.
Maybe that's a sign.
Maybe lights go out on Jordan Love. I'm higher on Jordan Love because I have him at 11. You have him at
14.
14. I will include him and he will join the list of players. All right, Herbert, I'm comfortable. Rodgers, he's old, but yes, like I'm comfortable paying him top QB money. Stroud, I already said.
Mine isn't comfortable. It's just full confidence. I'm comfortable paying all these guys up to, to me, I think where you start having to make a tough decision is Love and Kyler. But Love, it's because if you've only seen 1 year and
the
up and down of it.
But we've only seen 1 year, but also the difference between in my brain of being worried about a second year fall off with Jordan Love versus like a CJ Stroud. I don't mean like fall off like CJ Stroud's going to be bad, but the NFL's had years of film on what Green Bay's doing and what LaFleur's doing versus Bobby Slowick. It's okay, first year offense coordinator, first year play caller. Now the NFL has seen it. How will the NFL adjust? The NFL's had years to adjust to what Green Bay's doing.
Well,
and yeah, go ahead.
Well, here's where I push back on that is that what Stroud does is he reads what the defense is doing and then he adjusts to what the defense is doing. Where Love very much did I'm doing what Matt LaFleur tells me how he draws it up, try to do. Where again, like that was some of the stuff that came out of Green Bay this last year. Is like this is really LaFleur's offense, where it was a mix of LaFleur and Rodgers before, because Rodgers has gained that ability to, hey, I run this, I call these plays, this is what I check into. Where Love is much more of a, at this point, is like, hey, I run what's in front of me. I hope that it opens up, 1, 2, 3. That's why I'm actually way more worried about a second year, he's not a second year player, drop off from Love than I am Stroud.
I come from it where Love has been on the bench for so long, and it's an advantage for Jordan Love where he has that total mastery of the offense, or he should have that total mastery of the offense, and he should at this stage of his career be able to take, what you were challenging Jalen Hurts to do. It's the same thing. He should be able to take way more of a mastery, and the fact that there's so much continuity on the offensive side of the ball for Green Bay, where a lot of the linemen are basically the same. You have Jordan Morgan, who's going to be your left tackle, but I think they have new running back at Jacobs, but the tight ends are basically the same. The wide receivers are all basically the same. So that's a good thing for Green Bay. All that continuity is definitely good for Jordan Love. So, and I just think the throws that he makes, like it does look similar to what Rodgers was even doing early on. He has some of those tendencies. So I'm excited for what Jordan Love can do, and I would feel confident. Like Green Bay is in a situation through these next 6 weeks where they could give him a contract, and at least I wouldn't blink at it, even though it is a little risky. I wouldn't blink at it.
Yeah, I wouldn't blink at it either. Well, let me ask you this question let's ask you a question. Who on this list has the biggest possibility to move up it? Because my answer is Jordan Love. And then maybe Trevor Lawrence could jump from like 10 to 5. But to me, the easy answer is Jordan Love. The rest of the group I think is fairly locked in.
Are we talking about good to elite?
It could be good to elite, or it could just be up the good list. I don't think Jordan Love's jumping from good to elite, but I can see Jordan Love jumping from, for me, 14 to 7. But if we're talking from good to elite, it's Herbert, Stroud, and Lawrence, I think, are the three guys that could do that. Or Rodgers could get back to that. But talking young guys, it's Herbert, Stroud, and Lawrence are the three guys that I think can make that jump.
Yeah, I don't know if Herbert's going to this year, just because of who and what the Chargers are and who and what the Chargers are going to have to be this year. Because I think it is going to be a little bit of taking the ball out of Herbert's hands. But his efficiency could be super high if they're running the ball, and that's what's made Lamar so good. That's also unfair to say. Stroud for me has, like, if you want to talk about good to elite, Stroud has the best chance to join who our top 4 are right now.
Agreed. And now that obviously includes situation a little bit too with talent.
Yeah.
I know that's not what this exercise is. But yeah, CJ, it's just, part of it with Stroud is just waiting for year 2 of it. Like, okay, like go out and get, how much better do you get from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah. And let's face it.
But a lot of times we say that, and then guys can stay similar to around that range, and he could just fall into that 6 to 9 range for his whole career, which is fucking sick if you're a Houston Texans fan. But that elite category to me is, again, I only kept 4 guys in it. It's to me, it's a sacred title.
Yeah, and let's face it too. You have Jalen Hurts ahead of Dak Prescott. I have Dak Prescott ahead of Jalen Hurts. Like, I think Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts.
Playoff performance. I know we keep on, but like, I cannot watch a guy choke in the playoffs and play awful year after year. It matters to me. If Dak had average playoff performances, he would go from number 13 to number 9 for me. It would be right ahead of Jalen Hurts and Trevor Lawrence. But playoff performance to me matters when we're picking rankings of the good quarterbacks. No denying he's good, but when we're ranking the good guys, that matters to me.
No, and that's exactly where I was going to go. Where if you want to talk about a guy that has the potential to jump a little bit, he's on a contract year. Maybe we'll see if the Cowboys should just extend him. But he's also the player that has the most leverage in football right now. So he shouldn't accept anything that isn't resetting the QB market. Dak Prescott is going to reset the QB market.
Oh, absolutely.
But if he,
without a doubt.
But if he goes on a little bit of a playoff run and he starts to shake some more of the critics, then a guy that has the potential, like I have him 9 right now. You said he can go up to 9. Like he could pass Matt Stafford for me. He could pass Aaron Rodgers. I don't know about Herbert, but
here's the thing: I'm not waiting on a 31-year-old guy to finally break through in the playoffs.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And even then, even if what does breakthrough? Win the Super Bowl? So even if they finally let's say they got to the conference championship game and lost, does that answer all of your Dak Prescott questions?
Maybe if he just performs better in the playoffs.
Yeah, sure, but it would have to take like a one-off playoff game. It would need to be 2 elite games in the wild card divisional round, and he played really well in the conference championship game, but just got outgunned.
Yeah. Okay. There's only 4 QBs left, and do we have them ranked the same? No, we do not have them ranked the same way.
So I 3 and 4 is different. I have Patrick Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2, Lamar 3, and Joe Burrow 4 in the elite category.
I have Patrick Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2, Joe Burrow 3, and Lamar Jackson 4.
What puts Joe Burrow over Lamar for you?
I think
playoffs, maybe?
No. I just think the combination of Burrow avoiding pressure, being good inside the pocket, or even Lamar Jackson was the 3rd highest QB that shared responsibility of pressure last year. But I don't view that as like, oh, Lamar Jackson bad within the pocket. It's because Lamar is extending plays with his legs and the way that he just plays the game, right? But I think the combination of the ability to push the ball down the field, the accuracy down the field, and even Joe Burrow is sneaky at his ability to extend plays in the pocket, even though that's not what he's like normally known for. I think he's one of the best at it in the NFL. That's all of that collection puts Joe Burrow ahead of Lamar for me.
So Lamar he's one of the best passers in the game. To me, it's just that his legs add so much, and Joe Burrow does use his legs to make plays in the pocket, or
it's different.
Just he doesn't have any running ability, and Lamar has the best running ability in the NFL as a quarterback. Yeah. So that's where it makes the difference for me between the two. Is like Lamar's giving you so much on the ground, and as a passer, like he's been awesome too, right? Coming off of the MVP season, and then the playoffs is where if you wanted to pick between the two, I think is where I would struggle a little bit. And you look at Joe Burrow in the playoffs. I think he's been good. I think some people try to poke holes at it a little bit with some interceptions and passer rating or whatever. But like you watch those playoff games, he's been in control. He's been good. That's where I think you can make a difference, and that's where I'm waiting for Lamar to be more consistently like Lamar hasn't performed great in the playoffs, right? The AFC Championship game he played bad, and then he wasn't in the playoffs the 2 years before due to injury. And then it wasn't very good the years before that. So I do want to see that next step of the a great playoff performance, sustained and get to the Super Bowl. Like the Ravens should be a team. They should have went to the Super Bowl last year. They were a much more talented team than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Last year was it. Last year was the year.
Last year they were a much more talented team than the Kansas City Chiefs, and they fell short. And part of that had to do with Lamar Jackson.
I'm a little worried.
Patrick Mahomes.
I'm a little worried that Lamar, kind of just based on the team, the offensive line, the receivers, I don't view as great. Like I don't view Zay Flowers as a number 1 in the NFL. I could also be wrong, and I could also eat shit with that.
The high end too, at least though.
I'm worried that Lamar could fall off this list and go into good, which is not bad. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing necessarily, but
unless he has like the worst playoff game ever, I don't think I'm moving Lamar off of the elite.
I think the Ravens could. This is more of a Ravens team conversation than Lamar, but Lamar's also carried Ravens teams.
That's what I'm saying. Even if the Ravens don't have the same year, I think Lamar will carry them to being a good team at least, and he'll be the reason they're at least good.
Yeah, he's carried bad wide receiver groups before, and last year, you know, they had some sort of semblance of good players. Even Odell just running around there was better than what they've had in years past. Bateman was a little bit healthy, and then the arrival of Zay Flowers was really good for them, and you saw what they were able to do. So, yeah, man. I mean, I have some other questions. I do want to wrap up soon because I have to go to an event at the theater at MSG for a Giants event, but. What QB do you feel like was benefited the most? I know we tried to remove situation, but what QB do you feel is benefited the most by their situation on this list?
So I don't think anyone benefited from their situation. I think people were only hurt by it, right?
All right, then who do you feel like was hurt? Most hurt by it?
Brock Purdy, right? Like I love watching Brock Purdy play. I think he makes the right decision, but it's like, again, what if he's on the Jacksonville Jags? Where does he end up being ranked?
Okay, so he's helped by his situation.
I'm saying he's helped as a quarterback, but in my rankings.
Oh, okay.
Like if he had the same production on the Jags, he'd be a top 10 quarterback.
Okay. Gotcha.
But I also think Brock Purdy is clearly ahead of a Tua, right? Where we're talking about two guys in similar situations.
Yeah, but Brock Purdy also above and beyond does much better quarterback things than like Jimmy G did before.
Absolutely. And Jimmy G is just not good. But we talk about Tua, like the Tua debate that never ends because the stats are so good. To me, I'm not even thinking twice of who I'm taking, Brock Purdy or Tua. I'm taking Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
It's just my question is he does struggle with some accuracy and outside, like it might put him on the Jags. What does he look like? I don't know if he looks the same. But I mean, he was top 5 in MVP voting. We just put him 17th. Or I put him 17th. Yeah, I don't think anyone was benefited from their situation on this. Maybe Stafford. Because, you know, Detroit Stafford is probably 9th or 10th on this list. So maybe Stafford, who I had at 5th.
Yeah. I also think Stafford just did some really good stuff last year. He did really good quarterback things, but also he's
awesome when he's on, but you forget some of the boneheaded shit that happens when I was just about
to say he still sometimes makes him, and that's what hurts some of his advanced numbers is that he still sometimes has that tendency to like what the fuck are you doing, man? But also in the playoff, he played awesome in that. He deserved to win that playoff game the way that he played. The Rams their roster just wasn't there yet, so.
Yeah, but it's just Stafford has these, like, he just throws interceptions, right? Like, even the year they won the Super Bowl, he led the league in interceptions that year. He only had 11 last year, but 11's kind of high in today's NFL for a good quarterback. I guess not that much, but Stafford has the boneheaded plays.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think, so if you're asking who's benefiting the most from situation, it's him with McVay, because you put him in, you know, the Detroit situation, he's, again, 9th or 10th. Maybe even lower on this list.
You know, and I think I honestly think if it weren't for the arrival of Puka Nacua and the fact that how good he is and that it's not just Cooper Kupp, you have both of those guys. I think Puka's not resurgence. Puka's like a rival almost saved Matt Stafford's career. There's a chance he would have retired.
He also plays worse when he's injured. Like, so in 2022, he didn't play well because he was injured. Like, he is someone who is when they're injured, he plays a lot worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Bobby Skinner, that's a list. We know Mahomes is good. We know Allen's good. We debated 3 and 4 and how that was different. I almost wanted to, like, I at one point in our emails, I threw out the whole idea of, should we have another tier where we just have Patrick Mahomes ahead of everybody else? Because in a way, that's the true list. But still, this was fun.
Yeah, fun stuff. Sorry you couldn't be here, Chris Rose.
Sorry you couldn't be here, Chris Rose.
I forgot to make up a lie about Chris Rose at the beginning of the episode. Damn it.
Well, I mean, what we could say is, I mean, John Boy Media is endangering its employees right now.
Yeah, he's missing this episode because of heat exhaustion. Not a joke.
Yes.
That's actually real.
Nobody's listening.
That's real shit right there.
Nobody's listening until the end. All right, we will be back next week. Not exactly sure what we're going to be doing, but it's probably going to be another theme. Did we talk about the final division yet? I don't
No,
think we
I
did.
want to do. I thought you guys were saving those for me, so I was glad. That
We
you
are
didn't do any of them.
we are saving them. I think we have one more left. And
Yeah,
I think it's the NFC South.
I love the division. So
I think it's the NFC South. So as long as as long as Chris Rose didn't sneak in an NFC South division preview while either of us were out, odds are that's what we're going to be doing on Tuesday's show. So for myself, Justin Penik, Bobby Skinner, Chris Rose, and producer Mikey, who are both in the warehouse
dying.
We'll see you on Tuesday on Football Today. Thanks for listening.